Dr. Chris Heine, and you're joining us today to get the answers to our first hippology contest that we're having with our 4-H Roundup. So what we're going to do today, right now is go over our team problem and talk about the question and what we were looking for from you guys. So we gave you a question to think about that we told you that you'd have some materials out here. It had something to do with a horse and weight tapes and strings and scales and hay. So we were hoping that you'd start to think about, oh, it must be a question about what are we supposed to feed a horse. So when you came out here, you were presented with a live horse here and a whole bunch of materials, and we asked you to tell us what the body condition score of this horse was, how much she weighed, and how much she needed to eat per day, and to show us that. So we actually gave you quite a few tasks for this problem. So we'll take a look at our little horse here and then talk about what we would have been looking for. So we wanted you guys to evaluate the body condition score of this horse. So one thing I didn't see was anybody actually touch her. So when you are evaluating body condition scores on horses, we do actually want you to get your hands on them and feel how much fat is up over her neck, behind her shoulder, over her rib cage, etc. So how many of you thought that she was actually maybe a little fat? That's good, she was, okay? So on our horse body condition scoring system, we score them from 1 to 9, with 5 being average, or kind of what our ideal is. Now this horse has definitely got a little bit of weight on her. So she's got some fat up over her tail head, over her rib cage, behind her shoulder. So she's going to be in kind of our 6 or 7 category, okay? So yes, you guys were pretty close. Very good. But we also said she's a broodmare. But it is July right now, so she's not much of a broodmare yet, right? So we're still pretty early in gestation. But because she is a broodmare and we're not riding her, I'm not super worried about her. Typically we want a broodmare in about 6 or so when they go through gestation. So that was the first part of the question. Then we also wanted you to weigh her. So I gave you some different materials to see what you guys were going to do. So one of the things that we gave you is actually a weight tape. And so this is probably the easiest and fastest way to do it, is just to use a weight tape. So that was great. So the weight tape, though, has to go around her heart girth, okay? So when you put the weight tape on the mare, right here is the zone that we need that heart girth measured on her, okay? Now I gave you some other materials. If you were more creative or have done it a few other ways, I also gave you string and a tape measure. So there's a couple ways you can weigh a horse actually with strings and tape measure. One is actually using an equation where we do her heart girth, and some of you guys were doing that. You measured your string out and we're measuring the length of your string. If you actually know that equation, it's actually her heart girth in inches squared times her body length in inches, and then you divide it by 330. You're like, how would I actually remember that? Well, I've taught this a lot, so that's what I know. But I know a group of you guys were really close. You were actually taking all the measurements that you use in the app that gives you her exact weight measurement. So you guys were so much on the right track, but you just didn't have the app with you. And we'd actually talked about having that out here, but we couldn't figure out how to do that with you got just Googling things. So you were on the right track, so I did give you guys some credit for that. So once we actually knew how much our horse weighed, the next creative problem-solving test we had for you was to weigh out how much hay the horse needed. So you guys were on the right track. A lot of you were trying to weigh some hay, but you were a little stymied by my scale that I had here, because this is a bathroom scale. So in the problem-solving, you guys need to stand on it and then hold a bucket while somebody adds hay to figure out how much hay that you would actually feed the horse, okay? So that was what never quite got connected on anybody, that you could actually just stand on the scale and hold it while you add hay to your bucket. And then what we were looking for are general guidelines for what we feed horses, if we do it in a percent of her body weight. So we usually recommend about 2% of her body weight. So we're actually looking for about 20 pounds of hay in that bucket. Okay? Does that make sense? You guys have any questions on that? Again, I saw a lot of the right thoughts going, and it was just so close. But those are some of the things that I like to teach people to do. There really are some household items that you have that can help you do some of these things to figure out what to feed your horse. Okay? All right, let's head to our stations, and then we'll go over that quick, and then we'll head back to our classroom.
If you're just tuning in, we are going through our hippology contest. Hippology is the study of horses, and we're going through the stations part right now.
Okay, so in this station, we asked you guys to discuss or give us some answers with pairs of bits. So we were asking you questions about which bit of the pair is more severe. Again, always acknowledging people do have a role in how severe a bit is, but we have some general answers about what that's going to be. So our first pair here, we had a smooth snaffle bit versus a twisted snaffle bit. So which one is going to be more severe? The twisted, okay? So you were supposed to pick this one in your pair. Our next pair were both bits that are kind of what I always thought of bits that transition a horse from a snaffle bit to a curb bit. So they both count as curb bits because they have shanks, but they're a little bit different, okay? So one bit has straight mouthpieces and a little bit longer shank. The other bit is sort of curved and has shorter shanks that are swept backwards. So of the two, which one do we think is more severe? One in my left hand or the one in my right hand? Left. Very good. All right. Perfect. The left hand. Okay. Then we gave you two different types of bits here. So this one is correctional, a pretty big fat correctional. And then our low port bit here that is a straight mouthpiece. So between these two bits, what do we think is more severe? Yeah. Good job. You guys are doing well. And then we had a final pair of bits that we asked you questions about. Again, examples of correctional mouthpieces. So we had this one here, which is a little bit taller and a little bit more narrow in the space between the base of this mouthpiece. This one is a little bit more rounded and a little bit thicker mouthpiece. And the shanks are also, again, this S-curve here. So which do we think is the more severe between these two? It's actually this hand, my right hand, okay? And so then we asked you just to kind of explain that. And that's really because the port is taller in this bit. And the space here is pretty tight, and this end here would create a lot of pressure down on the tongue of the horse. So this would have been the more severe of those two pairs of bits. Very good. Okay, let's go to our next station. We'll head over here. Okay, so we had you choose from a list of items that we've labeled on our saddle here. So number one is this piece here. Anybody want to tell me what that piece is? Do you remember? Latigo holder. Perfect. So this is the Latigo holder. How about number 5 here? Seat. Did anybody not know that was where you sit? Okay, very good. Seat. 4. Cantle. Very good. 2 down here. Fender. And 3 skirt. Very good. Anybody get all of them on that one? Yeah. Very good. All right. On to the next one. We'll go to our boot station. Woo-hoo. Boots. Okay, so again, we gave you 10 choices of different equipment that we could see on horses. All of these boots are meant to protect the horses during work. So we have our first pair of boots here. Anybody remember what these were? Not splint. The sport boots, okay? Or you may hear sport medicine boots. So these are the ones that kind of wrap more completely around the fetlock of the horse. How about these?
Ski boots.
Yeah, ski boots for the reining horses. Very good.
Bell boots.
Bell boots. Very good.
There was one on there.
Yes, you can look at the question. This Western or English horse? English horse. So that might have been new for some of you guys.
Open front boots.
Yeah, so these boots are meant to protect the back of the horse's legs, but it leaves the front open. So maybe if they hit a rail, they might notice and not do it again. Okay, so sometimes those are specifically for jumping horses to protect so they don't overreach and hurt themselves, but just a gentle reminder to maybe jump all the way over the fence. Okay? And how many of you have seen these before?
Never in my life.
So this is something new. Very good. So these are what are called brushing boots. You may hear them as, did you get it?
I did.
Fantastic. Or galloping boots. So these are for horses to go on their fetlock so when they're galloping they don't accidentally whack themselves together. So it is essentially like ankle protection for a horse. Okay? All right. Very good, gang. Showed you some new things. Okay, always my favorite station are the bones and bone identification. So I have, actually these are just some of my bones. If you didn't notice, I have a whole box of bones that I like to show people all the time that I've collected over the years, even on trail rides. If I see horse bones, I take them home with me. I actually picked up some bones on our 4-H state family horse trail ride when we were out in the Panhandle. I took some bones home for there. So this big bone here, the biggest bone in the horse's body, any idea on this one? The femur, very good. Nice big heavy bone. So this is not one that horses break very often. Okay? Then there's this cool little bone here. Any ideas on this one? Where do you think you'd find this bone? In their hoof, yeah. So the trick was, now do we know what the name of the bone in the horse's hoof? So it has two names it goes by. I think I gave you the harder name. So the more general bone is the coffin bone, yeah. The scientific name for this would be P3 or the distal phalanx. Okay, so the third phalanx. So that's what goes in their hoof. And then we had some bones over here just to identify. So I have a front leg and a back leg. Which is which?
Number 4.
Front. Very good. This is a back. So this is the knee and this is the hock. So you had to kind of figure out which is which. So this bone here on the front leg is called the third metacarpal bone. So metacarpal is this bone here. On the hind limb, then, it is the third metatarsal. Very good. So the tarsal bones, those are what are in your feet. And then this one, if you knew that this was P3, then that makes this one P2. Very good. So this is the second phalanx, and that, of course, is the first. If you like common names, this is the long pastern and this is the short pastern. Okay? All right, one more station to go. All right, so our final station that we asked you guys to do is to look at some hay and evaluate it, rank it in terms of quality, and then decide which horses to actually feed it to. So we will confess that we wrote the groups of horses before we have the hay. So in hindsight, maybe we should have the hay first and then come up with the classes of horses to feed it to. But we had 2 alfalfa samples in here. So we had one over on this side and one over on the far side. So those would have been your higher quality hays. And that's not saying that alfalfa is always higher quality than grass hay, but we are saying that in this particular case, these were higher quality hays. We ranked this one as our highest quality because it had a lot of leaves and its stems were a lot smaller and more bendy than our hay over there. So the stem thickness and a little bit of less leaf to it was why we ranked that one second. Then we had our Bermuda Hays in here. So we had two examples of Bermuda hay. Honestly, these were pretty close. So if you had trouble with these two hays, that's okay because again, we were looking for hay today and going, oh, look what hay we have. So this particular hay here, the stems are pretty fine, which most horses like, but this is a little bit older hay and has gotten a little bit dry and maybe a little bit brittle. But otherwise probably was pretty good quality. We do know this hay, well, I know it because I've owned it for a while. So this hay is last year's hay. So that sort of plays into the game, but we didn't give you that information. And this hay here is maybe a little bit more pliable to it, but the stems are a little bit thicker and it's sort of a mixed between some grasses. So we ended up on just a little bit of texture, ranking this one a little bit higher than this one, but honestly these are pretty close. If you guys had those pretty close together, we were okay with that. We'd probably say test it and then we would know for sure. And then anybody want to tell me what this is?
Worthless straw.
Yeah, okay. So were we supposed to feed this to a horse?
No.
So this one went on the do not feed list. So that was the one that we wanted you guys to pick to don't feed this to a horse. And then our classes of horses, we wanted you to feed the highest quality hay to our weanling horse because they're going to have the highest nutrient requirements of our list of horses. We gave you a choice of an old fat horse that really didn't need a lot. So we wanted you to pick one of these hays for our old guy. And then our 2-year-old in training, we gave the second highest in quality. And I think we added that he was in race training to help you out. So he was in pretty heavy exercise. And then we gave our gestation mare the other coastal hay. Okay, do you guys have any questions on that? All right. Well, thanks, and we'll head back in to just go over the test quick, and then we'll give you results.